If you are watching this right now, it is not by chance, and it is not the algorithm. Pay attention to the last 3 days of your life. That silent restlessness that appears when no one is looking. The thoughts that return, even when you try to distract them. The strange feeling that something has changed, but you still cannot name what. A weariness that is not physical, a dream that got stuck in your memory, a sudden urge to change everything, and at the same time, an ancient fear of finally doing it. You arrived here because an invisible threshold is approaching, and a part of you already knows it, even before this transmission began. What I am going to tell you in the next few minutes is not a vague prediction. It is not generic comfort, and it is not a spiritual fantasy. It is structure. It is the engineering of reality. Because on August 15th, 3 days after the solar eclipse of August 12th, Mercury meets Jupiter in Leo, and 5 signs of the zodiac enter the second wave of a movement that most people haven't even realized has begun. The eclipse opened a door, but the door alone changes nothing. It is the message that crosses that door that changes everything. And it is exactly this message that will arrive now. Humanity is divided into 2 groups in the face of an event like this. The sleeping majority will feel this energy, but will attribute it all to work stress, lack of sleep, a bad day, a misinterpreted comment, a silly argument. They will pass through this window like someone walking down a street without looking at the signs. And when the portal closes, these people will remain exactly where they were, with a vague sense that they missed something important, but without being able to say what it was. The minority, and it is to this minority that you belong, has the internal infrastructure to recognize the moment for what it is. Not because it is special, but because they stopped running from their own perception. And here is where we need to dismantle a dangerous illusion before moving forward. There is a popular belief that the universe will descend, resolve your life, send a crystal-clear sign, and save you from where you are. This is a lie. A portal is not an astronomical event. A portal is the turning point where the cost of remaining stuck in your current life becomes greater than the terror of taking the next step. You take the step, and then the ground appears. Never before. Mercury and Jupiter are not going to live your life for you. They are going to illuminate exactly the corridor you need to cross. Crossing it remains up to you. Now, to understand why this conjunction on August 15th can redirect the coming days, days that perhaps define the coming months, we need to talk about language. In the symbolic language that astrology has used for thousands of years, Mercury is not just a planet. Mercury is the mind in motion. It is the messenger. It is the channel through which information reaches you, whether in the form of a conversation, an email, a sudden intuition, a phrase overheard by chance, a signed document, an answer you had been waiting weeks for. Mercury is that which crosses the border between the invisible and the pronounceable. It translates what was vibrating in silence into something that can finally be said. Jupiter is something else. Jupiter is amplitude, it is expansion, it is the cosmic teacher. It is the planet that takes anything it touches and increases its size, its reach, its consequence. Jupiter is the difference between a common invitation and an opportunity that changes a 10-year trajectory. When Jupiter touches something, it grows. When Jupiter touches Mercury, what grows especially is the information, the decision, the word, the contract, the insight, the proposal, the thought. And when this encounter happens in Leo, the sign of recognition, identity, personal brilliance, the heart, the stage, what grows gains visibility. It does not stay hidden. It does not go unnoticed. It assumes public form within your own life. This means in practice that an apparently common conversation, an invitation that seems small, news that arrives at the most unexpected moment, an idea that crosses your mind in the shower, a decision you postponed for months, all of this can transform between August 14th and 17th into the first sign of a new stage. Not because the sky will shine differently, but because you will be in a different state of reception. And this is where most people slip up. They receive the sign, but they don't have the internal structure to act upon it. They hear the message, but they don't have the map to cross through it. That was why I prepared my Guia M28 Exercícios as 28 Chaves do Despertar for you. It is a 28-day journey, a complete lunar cycle, made for those who feel lost, different, overwhelmed, tired of signs that appear and disappear without turning into a real decision. In these 28 days, you learn to recognize the signs of the soul without confusing them with anxiety, to integrate the shadow without drowning in it, to transform restlessness into language, signs into decisions, consciousness into practical direction. This is not a course of pretty theory. It is a structure so as not to waste the exact window that opens on August 15th. Because without structure, the portal passes, and then comes another weariness, another identical day, another old doubt. The link in the first pinned comment is the bridge between hearing and crossing. If you feel that this transmission reached you for a reason, comment now the word attraverso. Record that you are not going to pass through this window asleep. Now the first name of this new wave needs to be spoken clearly, because it is where the conjunction happens directly. Leo. If you are a Leo, or have a Leo ascendant, or a Leo moon, this encounter happens inside your own symbolic house. It happens in you. And what this means is that the new era for Leo begins with identity, not through external work, not through the relationship with the other. Through the question you have been avoiding answering for too long. Who am I really when no one is looking? And what changes in the world when I stop hiding this version? There is a part of Leo that always knew this. A part that, even in the most difficult periods, even when everything seemed to go wrong, kept alive the intuition that there was more. That the current life was too small to fit who you really are inside. This part did not disappear. It was merely covered by layers of disappointment, of frustrated attempts, of people who told you to be more realistic, of experiences that taught you that dreaming out loud was expensive. Mercury and Jupiter in Leo come to clean away these layers. And the process is not gentle. It is precise, like a knife that separates what was you from what was imposition, from what was fear, from what was a story repeated for generations before you even existed. Leo spent months, perhaps years, learning to shrink to fit into spaces too small for the real size they carry. They learn to soften their glow so as not to bother others. They learn to apologize for taking up space. They learn to laugh lower, dream lower, exist at a reduced volume. And what Mercury and Jupiter bring on August 15th is the message, often coming through an apparently banal conversation, that the cost of remaining shrunken has just become too high. Someone is going to recognize you. An invitation may arrive, a project may be born. A person may say out loud what you yourself did not have the courage to admit about yourself. And then comes the difficult part. Because recognition is not comfortable for those who have grown accustomed to living hidden, an impulse to refuse will hit, to say you are not ready, to think it is too big, that it is too fast, that it is not yet the time. This impulse is the echo of the old version, the version that learned to survive invisible. After August 15th, hiding who you really are will become increasingly difficult, because every time you try to go back to the old box, some sign will appear to remind you that the box is broken. And there is no glue for that box. There is only courage for the next step. Gemini now enters the story through another gate. If Leo is the stage, Gemini is the key, because Gemini is ruled precisely by Mercury, the protagonist planet of this conjunction, and when your ruler meets Jupiter, the messenger gains a megaphone. For Gemini, the turning point of August 15th will arrive in the form of a word, an answer you were waiting for and had given up on waiting for, an email that appears at the most improbable moment, a short conversation with someone you barely know that plants an idea impossible to get out of your head, a document that changes an entire plan, a phrase said by chance that reorganizes an important decision. The great mistake Gemini can make in these days is thinking that something grandiose needs to happen to be a sign. The conjunction of Mercury and Jupiter in Leo works with the opposite mechanism. It takes the small and reveals the giant that was hidden inside it. A three-line message can contain the key to a turnaround of years. An invitation for an apparently unimportant coffee can be the first thread of an entire professional network. A question asked by a child can be the insight that reorganizes an old doubt. Gemini needs in these days to listen like someone who knows that the essential never arrives dressed in importance. It arrives dressed in simplicity. And at the same time, Gemini needs to speak, because this same conjunction that makes you receive also makes you emit. Something you say between August 14th and 17th can echo for much longer than you imagine. A proposal you make, a request you formulate, a truth you finally put into words, all of this can find in Jupiter an amplifier. Do not use this amplitude to complain. Use it to ask. Use it to propose. Use it to name. Use it to say what was stuck in your throat. If you recognize this happening inside you now, comment the word recibo. It is not a game, it is an anchoring. When you name what you are feeling, the energy stops circulating in the vague and begins to circulate in the specific. And the specific is the only place where transformation happens. Virgo comes next, and Virgo's story in this conjunction is different from the others. While Leo receives the spotlight and Gemini receives the message, Virgo receives the answer. And we need to be precise here. Virgo spent a long time immersed in doubts, revisions, analyses, mental spreadsheets, endless lists of what to do, what to avoid, what to fix. Virgo has this sacred gift for detail, but when detail becomes a trap, the map becomes so meticulous that the person forgets to leave the house. And what Mercury and Jupiter bring to Virgo on August 15th is the missing piece. A hidden piece of information that finally appears. A data point you didn't have that changes the reading of everything. A sudden clarity that dissolves an entire month of confusion. A practical solution, almost obvious after it appears, to a problem that seemed to have 1,000 loose ends. Virgo, this is your silent transformation. While the world outside looks for extraordinary signs, luminous portals, theatrical revelations, you realize that your greatest change begins with a simple yet definitive decision. A short response to an old invitation. A yes that was stuck for months. A no that needed to be said even longer ago. A boundary established without drama. A practical step that from the outside seems tiny, but from the inside reorganizes everything. Pay special attention, Virgo, to what appears in the form of advice. Someone might say something, almost in passing, that functions as the exact piece that was missing from your puzzle. Do not discard it because of the packaging. The conjunction does not choose glamorous messengers. It chooses available messengers. It could be the person next to you. It could be a book open to the right page. It could be a phrase from a transmission like this one. It could be a dream that insists on returning. What characterizes the right answer is not the brilliance of the one who delivers it. It is the silence it produces within you. You recognize the right answer because the internal noise stops. The doubts stop spinning. And for the first time in a long time, you can breathe all the way out. And before we go to Sagittarius, I need to remind you of something that already appeared at the beginning of this transmission, and that changes everything from here on out. This window of August 15th does not work alone. It is the second wave of a movement that began at the eclipse, and the next wave after it comes in September. Each of these waves demands a different internal structure. Without that structure, the portal passes and turns into nostalgia. That was why Magia M28 Exercicios was designed as a 28-day cycle. Exactly the time necessary to cross this sequence of waves with clarity, with integrated shadow, with decision instead of doubt. The link is in the first pinned comment. It is not about accumulating content. It is about not missing the window in which your life is literally asking for passage. Sagittarius. Now we need to talk about Sagittarius because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the other protagonist of this conjunction. And when your ruler meets Mercury in Leo, something very specific happens to your internal compass. It recalibrates. If you are a Sagittarius, if you have a Sagittarius ascendant or moon, you have probably spent the last few months trying to make a plan work. A plan that seemed right, a plan that made sense on paper, a plan that you defended, often against the instinct to change everything. And now between August 14th and 17th, something is going to appear that was not in that plan. An opportunity off the script, an invitation from a direction you weren't even looking at, a project that pulls you toward a place larger than the target you had drawn. And here is the point that needs to be said with all clarity. What arrives now might not seem like part of your plan precisely because it is taking you to a destination that your old plan could not reach. You were aiming small, not out of laziness, out of protection. Because small plans are easier to defend against fear. Sagittarius, this window asks for courage of a specific kind. Not the courage to scream, the courage to accept, the courage to say yes to a door that is larger than you thought you deserved to cross, and the feeling that you are not ready will hit. You really aren't. No one is ever ready for a door larger than their own imagination. Readiness does not come before. It comes in the middle of the way, when you have already said yes and can no longer turn back. The conjunction of Mercury and Jupiter in Leo is the invitation for you to trade the safe plan for the true plan. And the true plan always seems dangerous at first, because it forces you to grow into it. There is a specific trap waiting for Sagittarius in these days, and you need to know about it. The trap is escape. When a big door appears, the impulse to find 1,000 excuses not to cross is violent. You will hear your own mind construct elegant arguments about why this is not the moment, why you need to wait longer, why it makes more sense a few months from now. Recognize these arguments for what they are. They are not wisdom. They are the old version clinging to the doorframe while you try to cross. And here is where I need to tell you something hard, because this is the penultimate moment we have to talk before closing this transmission. If you have come this far, something in you has already decided. You just haven't given it a name yet, and postponing the name is the most silent way to lose the portal. Magia inventioit. Exercitius exists for this exact hour. It is not passing motivation. It is a 28-day structure, day by day, for you to cross this window without getting lost. Integrating the shadow that appears when the light increases, transforming every sign into a practical decision, and every decision into a real direction. The link in the first pinned comment is your bridge. Do not leave it until after the portal. After the portal, the energy is different. The time is now. If you know you came here for a reason, do not close this tab before taking the step. Pisces closes this selection, and Pisces closes for a reason that needs to be said with respect. While the other signs receive the message, the stage, the answer, or the door, Pisces receives the confirmation. If you are a Pisces, or have a strong Pisces influence in your chart, you have been feeling for weeks, perhaps months, that something was about to change. It wasn't a thought, it was a sensation, a restlessness that appeared in dreams you couldn't decipher. Small synchronicities, repeating numbers, apparently casual encounters, a song that played at the exact time, a name that appeared 3 times in different contexts on the same day. You looked at all of this and felt you were being prepared for something, but you still didn't have words to name what. Mercury and Jupiter in Leo function, for Pisces, as the moment when the sensation begins to gain words. The intuition that had been operating in silence begins to translate into direction. That dream that kept returning, that unexplained urge, that discomfort with a situation that on the outside seemed to be fine, all of this begins to organize itself into a clear phrase inside you. And this phrase can arrive in surprising ways, through a conversation that validates exactly what you were feeling, through a book that falls into your hand and says in words what you could not formulate, through a person who appears and lives in front of your eyes what you were avoiding doing. Pisces has in this window the most delicate task of all, the task of trusting what they already know. You already know. You have always known. The problem was never a lack of perception. The problem was an excess of translation. You would receive the sign, but then you would spend hours rationalizing it, questioning it, asking permission from other people, comparing what you felt with what others felt, testing the validity of your own perception as if it needed external approval. After August 15th, this translation will become harder to sustain because the signs will begin to align with a sharpness that dispenses with a second opinion. Be careful, Pisces, with the desire to return to confusion, because confusion, as much as it hurts, is familiar, and spiritual clarity, when it truly arrives, demands practical change. You cannot have clarity about a relationship and continue acting as if you were in doubt. You cannot have clarity about a professional direction and continue saying yes to everything that appears. You cannot have clarity about a purpose and continue wasting energy in the old places. The conjunction of Mercury and Jupiter in Leo hands you the language for what you already felt. What you do with that language afterward defines the coming months. And here is the final stitching of this transmission. 5 signs, 5 doors, one same window. Leo needs to accept visibility. Gemini needs to listen and speak. Virgo needs to act on the simple answer. Sagittarius needs to cross the door larger than the plan. Pisces needs to trust what they already know. And all the others who are watching, even if they are not of these 5 signs, are participating in this wave in another way, because every chart has several layers, and Mercury and Jupiter touch everyone, each in a specific house of life. What you just heard was the preparation. The final revelation of what this second wave means for your new timeline, the complete reading of what comes after August 15th until the next great alignment, is in the video appearing now on your screen. Click it. The first 60 seconds will change the way you view the coming weeks. Every video on this channel is a coordinate within a larger map. If you are not subscribed, you will receive only loose pieces, and the next videos show what happens after this window. Missing the sequence is missing the context. Subscribe, activate the bell, and let the next step appear. Before closing, let me tell you one last thing. You did not reach the end of this transmission through resistance. You reached it because some part of you already knows that what was said here is not about generic astrology. It is about your specific life at the exact point where it is now. Keep that feeling. Do not dissolve it in the noise of the coming hours. Write down somewhere what you felt while listening. Return to that record after August 15th and observe how many of those sensations transformed into concrete fact. You will surprise yourself. The portal has already begun. You are already inside it. The only question that remains is whether you will cross through asleep or awake, and that question no one can answer for you.